Hey, what's up, guys? This is Ricky V, and you're listening to episode number 52 of the Elite Fitness Podcast. And in this one, we have a couple of rehash shows that I'd like you guys to check out. The first one is about albuterol sulfate and how that can put you in a coma if you're not careful. The second one is about dieting, burn meats, cooking, and some other cool topics. And without further ado, here's the show.
Hey, what's up, guys? Evolution at War podcast coming your way. Steve Smee, as always. I'm with Rick. What's up, man?
Hey, what's up, Steve? What's up, guys? How's everybody doing out there?
All right, guys, so we have 5 really fun topics. Let's get into it. First of all, the first one we're going to get into is a question we get a lot, and hopefully we can kind of give you guys some guidance on this. This guy says, my friend said short esters are better than long esters. True or bro science? So let's first talk about, what does that mean? Short esters, long esters. A short ester would simply mean a steroid that's a short half-life, like propionate, for example, has a short half-life. Phenylpropionate has a shorter half-life. Then you have anethate, cypionate, those are longer half-lives. Undeclinate, decanate, those are longer esters. So basically, the difference would be with the shorter esters, if you're using an injectable, you would have to inject it more frequently. So like propionate, you want to inject every day, every other day. And then cypionate and anethate, the longer esters, decanate, those you can inject twice a week or once every 10 days, depending on which one it is. So, is it better to inject more often, something with a short half-life that is, kind of builds up in your system and peaks at a quicker and is out of your system quicker? Does it really make a difference? So let's dive into this first. Let me kind of give me my opinion on this. It really depends on your situation. Like, I would give you an example. If you want to run like an 8-week cycle, it really is advantageous to run a short ester, because what happens is you're going to run it. It's going to, even though it's going to be working right away, it's going to peak a lot quicker. So you'll get peak levels of concentration in your blood within 2-3 weeks. If you're running a long ester, it's going to take 5 or 6 weeks. So if you're only running 8 weeks, it makes more sense to run a short ester because it's in your body quicker, peaking, and then once you stop, it's out of your body quicker, so you can start recovering quicker. A long ester, you want to run it maybe 10, 12 weeks. Some guys even go 14 or 16 weeks. And then when you come off of it, it still lingers in your system because it takes a longer time to get out. So, you're talking weeks after your last injection, it's still in your system. So in that case, it's going to take you longer to recover because you're running a much longer cycle. We'll get into the recovery aspect a little bit later. So that's my opinion on that. Depending on how long you're running it. Rick, what kind of direction you want to take on this question to help this guy out?
When it comes to the ester, the shorter esters are nice. They have some good parts to them. They have some drawbacks. The good parts that I like about the short ester is that you get more steroid for your milligrams, right? We've discussed this in the podcast before. Propionate, acetate, 100 milligrams of acetate, 100 milligrams of propionate is going to have more active anabolic hormone than if you had the same 100 mgs of anatinate, because the shorter ester weighs less and it comprises a smaller percentage of that total weight. So you get more active steroid. That's good. Also, the shorter ester just starts to work quicker. Anybody that's used trenbolone anatinate with the longer ester or trenbolone acetate knows the difference. Same thing with testosterone propionate. Same situation. You notice the stuff working a lot quicker. So those are the two good things. It works a lot quicker. It's almost like you don't even need a kickstart. It works so fast. And also, you get more active hormone per weight. Now, the drawbacks to the shorter esters are just the injection volume. You have to inject them quite often, and those injections tend to hurt quite a bit. So the shorter esters, you have to inject way more often, sometimes every other day if you really want to, sometimes every day if you really want to get a steady levels. And that can lead you to get burnout from your injections. Once you're on a long cycle and you're pinning every day, every other day, it begins to be a bit much. And you'll know when you're getting burnout from the injections because you have this reaction, like this sensation just touching the needle to your skin. And it's funny because the first time I did propionate, I actually looked forward to the shots. I enjoyed the shots. But then after about 4 weeks on this prop cycle, I was just like, damn, another shot. Damn, another shot. I got burnt out on them. And also, you're going to find that the shorter esters are going to give you more injection pain than the longer esters. You know, those shorter esters, they don't want to suspend in that oil, in that carrier, as much as the longer esters do. So they're going to burn out. They're going to burn you a little bit more. Even at the depot, as they get absorbed, they're more of a crystalline type of structure than what you get with a very kind of fatty type structure when you have those long esters in there. So it definitely hurts more the injection depot. So that's what I would say the two drawbacks to it are just the injection frequency, which will burn you out. You might have fun at first pinning, but it'll burn you out. And the pain, you know, the pain is unlike the longer esters for sure.
At the end of the day, guys, I personally hate the shorter esters. I'm all for the longer esters. I don't care about, you know, the disadvantages. For me, I hate injecting. I hate the pain of injecting. I'm sick and tired of it. So I always go with the longer esters. All things being equal, guys, over the long term, it will not matter if you shoot short or long esters. It's just a personal preference thing. And if your friend said, wow, short esters gave me much better results than long esters, I would say he was probably just using better quality gear when he used a short ester. I've seen that. I've experienced that personally. So even the same compound, two different brands, manufactured in two different countries, whatnot. I mean, it's going to give you'll like one more than the other. That's just how it is. So I don't think it really is going to make a difference long term in your in your fitness endeavors. I'll put it that way. All right, guys. So the next question is prostate. This is a topic that we don't talk enough about as men because the prostate is something, obviously, it's something personal. Nobody likes to go around talking about their prostate with other people in the gym very often. But I will say I'm kind of surprised at some of the conversations people have, you know, regarding their health. But the prostate's very important, guys, because it's one of those things like we can't see. Like you can look in the mirror and flex and see your big bicep and be like, wow, my bicep's improving. My bicep's getting bigger. But your prostate, you're not really going to be able to know if your prostate's getting enlarged or being inflamed or whatnot. Some of the side effects, though, if you are having an enlarged prostate, it's going to be urinary issues. Maybe we go to pee and you're pushing and you can't pee. You have problems. How you pee, like the quickness of getting it over, of urinating. It could affect you in the bedroom. It could affect your performance in the bedroom. It could affect, how you perform, how long you perform, all that stuff. So if you notice anything kind of screwy going on, then you really should be aware of that. And I'll say this, guys, this is kind of scary. I read something where if you're over the age of 50, you already have 1 million cancer cells in your prostate. So if you have an enlarged prostate from abusing anabolic steroids, those cancer cells can explode on you. So you want to keep that in mind. So, why do we get enlarged prostates on anabolic steroids? It's very simple, guys. It's the conversion of the hormones to dihydrotestosterone, DHT, and that affects your prostate, and that will cause your prostate to enlarge. So it's very important, guys, not to abuse steroids. That's what I'm going to tell you. I'm curious, Rick, you're the supplement guru. Is there any supplements out there that you think will help with the prostate? What are your thoughts on the whole prostate thing?
Yeah, there are a lot of natural ingredients that help with the prostate. One that's really interesting, and I don't have it in any of my products yet, but I'm researching it for a prostate product that I'm working on. It's lycopene. Lycopene is a really nice product. It comes from tomatoes, actually. And one thing, funny enough, you get more lycopene if the tomato's cooked than you do if you eat it raw. So that's just something to note. But lycopene is nice. And the thing about lycopene is, for example, you have those tiny little cancer cells, say, in your prostate. And they may never go anywhere. They might be there for life, and it'll never develop into anything because they don't have steady blood supply. Those cancer cells, they just don't have good supply. They're not normal cells. They're not good cells. So they just don't have a good blood supply. But if they get the blood supply, if they get it, they're going to just grow out of proportion. So there's certain chemicals that your cell uses to basically call, I guess is the best way to say it, to basically call blood vessels into growing in its direction. You know, there are chemicals that your healthy cells can release to have blood vessels begin to grow and feed it. Now, cancerous cells tend to not have or be able to create that signal. And it seems that lycopene helps to actually block it even further, block those cancer cells from actually getting any kind of blood supply or permanent blood supply lines, you know, running up to it, which is basically, you know, so lycopene is a really nice one. You know, maca and saw palmetto, those are actually good mentions as well. But if you're really concerned about cancer long term, I think just making sure you add lycopene to your program, make sure you enjoy cooked tomatoes, make sure you're, you know, those things can help. Just the key part is keeping that blood supply from reaching those cancerous cells, because once one of them grabs on to a steady blood supply, it's going to grow out of proportion, and it's on from there. I mean, you're going to have an issue.
Yeah, guys, and one of the big red flags of major prostate issues, ejaculation pain. If you get like and then burning when you urinate, but that could also be like a UTI too, urinary tract infection. But you want to look for that too if you're urinating. If the urine is like dribbling out of you, obviously that's a red flag. But how do you test for prostate? The number one way to test, guys, is just go to a doctor once a year and have them do the finger test. And, you know, I've had it done many times. It sucks. They stick a finger like up your ass, and I absolutely hate it. You know what I'm saying? It's like 5 seconds of hell getting a finger up your ass. But that's how they can actually see, they can tell if something's abnormal by doing that. And if it is, the doctor may order additional tests. But if they do decide to put you on a drug to kind of get the prostate smaller, you must work with your doctor as well by stopping anabolic steroids. You must. Like, don't be like, yeah, I'm just going to take the drug the doctor is giving me and then keep abusing steroids, because that absolutely makes no sense. And you're never going to get that prostate back to where it is. Don't fuck with that, guys. You can get prostate cancer very young. It's not one of those cancers that you don't have to worry about. I mean, we see people get prostate cancer who are much younger than other cancers. It's nothing to fuck with. So the finger up the ass, get it done, guys. Don't be one of those people who are like, I don't want to get the finger up the ass. I'd rather get cancer. So don't fuck around with that. Rick, what about you? When was the last time you got the finger in the ass?
About once a year, I get the test. You know, funny enough, never really had any kind of prostate sensitivity or issues doing juice. But since I started cycling, you know, mountain biking quite a bit, man, it gets tender. If I won't cycle, I'll feel it. So it's one thing I have noticed now, and it's going to bring me back into a full physical and the doctor, is that ever since I started bike riding with the juice, I have felt something a little bit tender and weird going on down there. And I got a new seat, a seat with a hole in the middle, so it doesn't put pressure on that area. But still, it's quite concerning, and you know, I'm going to follow it up for sure. But I mean, look, you can have some benign enlargement that feels uncomfortable. You get some PD side effects, but it's nothing to really worry about. So if you are feeling a little bit of sensitivity, don't go crazy. Just make the appointment, take your time. It could be just benign enlargement, benign tightness, which will tend to happen. You know, it can swell up and not be cancerous, just be something that's going on. So it's something to keep an eye on and be concerned about.
Yeah, and a lot of people listening to this are like, wow, I never even knew this. I never knew anything about the prostate. You know, it's like in weightlifting and bodybuilding, we tend to just look in the mirror and see what we see. We don't think about what's going on inside of us, and that will come back and bite you as you get older. So next one, guys.
And I think on this podcast, we've mentioned before androgen-dependent cancers, cancer cells that will grow when there is an abundant supply of androgen, say male hormones in the body, attaching to the receptors on those cells. And prostate is one of them. Prostate's probably the big one, the androgen-dependent cancer that you could develop from high levels of androgens that you might not otherwise develop if you weren't juicing. So it's something to note, something to be aware of.
So next one, guys, is can I get away with less post-cycle therapy on a short oral cycle than long injectable? So let me just address, what does post-cycle therapy mean? Post-cycle therapy is something that, those of us who cycle steroids, we depend on, because when you come off steroids, they start trickling out of your system. What happens is the hormones in your body start dropping. And since your own pituitary glands are not producing hormones, you will crash hard. And a post-cycle therapy is very important, because a post-cycle therapy, or PCT as it's called, is your soft landing. That's what you start using after you're done with your steroid cycle, and that will prevent that crash where you lose mood, you lose the motivation to work out, you lose strength, you lose muscle so rapidly. So we want to avoid that. We want a smooth landing. So that is why a post-cycle therapy, PCT, is so important. So is it true that you need a less of a PCT, I would say, when you're doing a shorter cycle? And the answer is yes, you do. Let's say you're doing a 6-week cycle, 4-week cycle oral. I mean, it's in and out of your system quick. You can you can do kind of a mini PCT after that, like low dose SERM, and then run some N2 generate. And that will be plenty for a PCT. But if you're running a long cycle, like 14 weeks, 16 weeks, then you need a much bigger PCT. I would be doubling up on your SERMs. I would be using N2 generate ES extra strength. You want to be very, very open to running your PCT much longer. I would even recommend an 8 or 10 week PCT if you're running such a long cycle. But a short cycle with short esters or an oral, you could probably get away with just a 4 or 5 week PCT. So that's what I've noticed over the years with myself and with my clients when I looked at blood work. So it does help. But also, you guys need to remember, going into your cycle, were you already suppressed? Was your HPTA already struggling? That can make a difference in how you recover as well. Rick, what about you? What have you noticed over the years? What's your opinion on this?
Yeah, shorter cycle, you tend to not get as suppressed and come back very quickly from it. I'm at a point now where I'm about to reach 40, and if I'm juicing, I'm either juicing or I'm on PCT kind of year round at this point. And I juice very little. I use very small amounts now just to maintain. But yeah, either that or I'm taking herbals. But and I take every year about 3 months off total to just where I take nothing. Now, when it comes to these short oral cycles, if you're doing a short oral cycle, about 4 or 6 weeks, yeah, I mean, you 2, 3, 4 week PCT, it's about all you need. And if you have a good, strong enough PCT, you'll even make some progress during your PCT, more progress as you are coming off the steroids even. So, absolutely. Short little turinabol cycle, 4 to 6 weeks, turinabol, 4 to 6 weeks, maybe Winstrol cycle. You're gonna be able to get away with a very small PCT compared to doing, the long esters and all this other stuff. You see, when you post psychotherapy from an oral cycle, once the orals are out of you, which happens within the first 24 hours, you're already recovering. You're taking the meds and you're starting to recover. When you take the longer esters, if you start your PCT, 2 weeks after your last shot, the steroids are still in your system. So you're kind of taking your PCT meds, trying to recover against the steroids still in there, suppressing you somewhat. So even the first 2 weeks of PCT coming off of some long ester injectables, you're not fully recovering because stuff is still flowing through you. Where when you get those orals, they're out of you pretty quickly and you can get to the business of recovering your normal testicular functions after cycle.
All right, guys. So our next topic is an interesting one. Is frying food and overcooking food bad for me? So let's talk about what happens when you cook food. Now, what is the problem with people say, well, you know what, this chicken is this many calories, so if I bake it versus just frying it, it's the same calories. It's the same macros, same amount of protein. It's gonna go in my body. That's what a stupid person says, and we see people say that shit all the time. But in reality, how you prepare your food makes a huge difference because your body has a different reaction. So frying and overcooking and charring your food destroys all the bacteria, destroys all the nutrition. You're basically eating a dead food. And we know that charring your food and over frying foods are carcinogenic. That's the first thing they tell people who have cancer, who walk into a cancer treatment center, is they tell them you cannot eat. Be very careful when you barbecue food from now on, because if that food gets charred, then it's carcinogenic. You cannot be putting that in your body. So absolutely, guys, food prep and food preparation is so fucking important, and how you cook your food is so fucking important. I have unrefined organic coconut oil, and that's the key word there, unrefined coconut oil. That's what I cook with. If you cook with refined oils, any type of refined oil, it's the health benefits are just so much more less than cooking with unrefined coconut oil. It's absolutely the best thing. It's come from nature, natural. And that's what I cook with. That's what I prep my food. I never burn my food. I never overcook my food. A lot of people want to argue with me about microwaving food. They say, oh, microwaving food is not a bad thing, whatever. Look, if you have to microwave your food, that's fine. But keep in mind, again, microwaving your food destroys a lot of the nutrition. So again, you want to try to eat as much live food as possible in your body. So when you're cooking meat, bake it very lightly, grill it very lightly. Make sure you're prepping it correctly. The seasonings, the unrefined coconut oil. That's what I recommend, guys. Anything. It could be eggs. It can be anything you're cooking. Vegetables. If you're overcooking them, you're destroying the nutrition in those foods, and it will make a difference. That's my opinion, guys. I mean, a lot of people want to disagree with that, and that's fine, because they think like, wow, these vegetables are this many macros, this chicken is this many macros, this beef is this many macros. It's the same thing whether you fry it in hydrogenated oil or you cook it the way I'm telling you to cook it. It's the same macros. That's what they'll tell you, but your body has a different reaction. And how do you feel when you go to a Chinese restaurant and you eat fried food, and their oil? How do you feel afterwards? You feel like shit. You're probably having diarrhea when you get home. So that's all stress out on your body, guys. Your body can't handle all that stress all the time. So food for thought, guys. Think about it. What's your opinion on this, Rick?
Overcooking food is no good. Not only just for mouthfeel, but having charred meat enter your body and go through your digestive system is definitely not going to help you. Now, just to clarify something Steve said, there's a lot of good live foods out there that you can have that have very good probiotics that are going to help your gut health, like sauerkraut, pickles, kombucha, certain types of yogurt. There's good stuff out there that has good live cultures. Definitely, we don't mean like you don't want the bacteria that's on dead meat. That's why we cook the shit out of it, because that bacteria will kill you. But there's good bacteria, good live foods that you can have. Now, you don't need to overcook your meat. Pretty much pork or chicken, it's either done or it's not. When it comes to certain types of fish and red meat, definitely you can play with how cooked you want it or not. But you definitely don't want to eat charred stuff, man. If that stuff going through your system is not good, is no bueno. So making sure to just cook your foods lightly, enough to kill the bad bacteria, but not enough to create, little pieces of charred meat that you're gonna then ingest. It's just not a good look. The little bit of grill lines on chicken breast or on a steak, neither here or there. It's just very small amount. But when you have like the edges charred up, when you have when you have meat that's black from being cooked, stay away. Stay away from meat that's turned black from being cooked. There's got black spots on it from overcooking. That's just not going to be good for you at all.
Guys, at the end of the day, fast food, mall food, restaurant food, okay, it's not good for you. They do overcook their foods, and that's not just the reason why. But the reason they overcook their foods is because they're trying to get rid of the bacteria on purpose, because they don't want you to get sick from it, like Rick was saying. But I mean, that's not a good thing. So, if you ever go to a restaurant or fast food place and you just go into the kitchen and watch how they're preparing the food, it's so unsanitary. That's why they have to overcook it on purpose, because it's so fucking unsanitary back there. There's roaches crawling around. There's rats. There's droppings of all kinds of bugs and stuff. So I prefer, to cook. I'm the best cook. Okay. There's no cook out there who can cook better than me. I'm my own cook. I can prep my own food. I can cook my own food. I don't need someone else. I don't need to pay someone else to cook my own food. So I prefer to do it, guys. But guys, it's so simple. Just go to the store, go to the health food store, buy a whole jar of unrefined coconut oil. It's like $10, and that will last you 2 or 3 months. Okay. You don't even need to use that much of it when you cook, and you can cook whatever you want. Just don't overcook, guys. Baking, a little bit of sauteing in a pan is okay. Those are really good options to cooking your food, but don't overcook it, guys.
One good way to cook consistently and not overcook your food, and it's really good, clean, easy, trouble-free way to cook, is get an air fryer. You could get an air fryer on the market for a couple $100, and it's been, for me, probably my most used cooking piece of equipment that I use now. The air fryer is just incredible. You just toss the food in there, set the timer. It will dry your food before it ever chars it. So it's very, very hard for you to char your food on an air fryer. And if it's getting a little bit dry, you can coat it with a little bit of coconut oil. Whatever you're cooking in there, you could put everything from a piece of red meat to a piece of chicken to a sweet potato to a full potato, to you can put anything in there. And if you're afraid, and if you want to get a nice little crisp on the outside of whatever you're throwing in there, just coat it with a little bit of coconut oil before you put it in the air fryer. And man, that machine is magical. It's probably my favorite piece of kitchen equipment. And I make everything in that thing. You can throw white button mushrooms in there with some cherry tomatoes, just 10 minutes on high, and man, they come out perfect. So that's probably my most beloved piece of cooking equipment that I've gotten in the last couple of years.
Another thing too, guys, is a crock pot. For those of you who you just want to prepare your stuff, throw it in there that morning, set it, then go to work, and then when you get home, you'll have a dinner just sitting for you, and that's another option as well. So there's cooking isn't that hard, guys. And what is it with the laziness out there? Like with people, they don't want to cook; they just want to go eat out.
Crackpot is the shizzle, man, for cooking some good food. You know what else is good? If you get a rice pot with a second stage so that you can steam vegetables on top of the rice, man, that's good stuff too. You make some good brown rice. I like to mix brown rice with just whole black rice on the husk. Stuff is black. You can buy it at the supermarket pretty easily. And then on the second stage, it'll have a little stage and it'll catch that steam coming out of the rice, and you can steam vegetables on there. Make a big pot on Sunday night, and you have enough rice for the next couple of days, and steam your vegetables right in there too. It's awesome.
So let me add what Rick said earlier about sauerkraut. Guys, make sure it's the raw sauerkraut. And you're probably not going to find that in your regular supermarket. You're going to have to go to a health food store for that. It's going to be refrigerated. Very important that it's raw sauerkraut, not the sauerkraut that's next to the ketchup in the aisle at your local supermarket, because that's dead. That's dead sauerkraut. Another thing too, if you have leaky gut or Crohn's disease, guys, you do not want to mess around with sauerkraut. That's not a good idea for you. That can really mess you up. So make sure you don't suffer from Crohn's or leaky gut before you mess with sauerkraut. All right, guys. Yep.
Kombucha is also a great product. I love kombucha. Got introduced to kombucha the last couple of years, and it's been awesome. It's like the perfect drink. I kind of always knew I wanted, but never knew existed. It's a bit bubbly. It's a little tiny bit sweet, but not much. It's got just a really nice, refreshing taste to it. Comes in a bunch of little different flavors. It has probiotics in it. I mean, it's really nice. And if you drink up one bottle really, really fast, it's got like a little bit less than 1% alcohol. You feel a little buzz from it for a few minutes after you drink a nice bottle of it really, really fast. But it's great. It's a great drink, kombucha, and it's good for your gut, man. It helps your gut health. It's great, great stuff. Anybody out there, you go pick it up at your store right now. Doesn't even have to be a health food store. Any of the large stores, Walmart has it. Just go pick up kombucha. I like the ginger because it's got a little bit of spice, a little bit of kick to it. So I like the ginger, cayenne pepper flavors. But kombucha is nice, and you can make your own at home. If you grab a bottle of just original natural kombucha without flavoring, and then you go through the process, you've got the seed there of the bacteria in the bottle you get at the store, so that you can start making your own unlimited amounts of kombucha at home, which is pretty easy to do too, by the way, guys.
And one more tip, guys, with the crock pot, great idea for you. Not only great for your gut health, but also great collagen is bone broth. And the way you would make that is get bones from the store or whatever. If you get like a T-bone steak or something, eat the steak and then just put the bones in the crock pot for about 48 hours and let it just simmer. And that will make bone broth. And that is one of the most healthiest non-plant-based things you could put in your body in terms of the benefits to your health. And that's something that you should be doing. You should be aimed to be doing that at least twice a month. And it's very easy to make, guys. 48 hours in the crock pot. Very, very easy. All right, guys. Then the final one is a fun one, guys. Best places to meet women. So, I know Rick has some ideas, but let me just give you an example where I met this girl the other day. I was actually on the ocean, and I was fishing, and she was in the ocean just to look at the nature and stuff. And, I was catching fish, and she was just like, wow, that looks awesome. So I was like, hey, you want to try fishing? She's like, sure. I'm like, have you ever fished before? She's like, not really. So I kind of started teaching her how to fish. And, I hooked the fish for her and I let her bring it in or whatever. And she lost the fish. She's like, oh, I'm so sorry. But she had such a nice positive energy, and she just was like, asking me my name and stuff. And she was into me, but, I'm taken right now. So of course I didn't ask her out, but that's a perfect example of you just doing something, doing a hobby, and a woman being there and, kind of just having a good time with her. And that's a great opportunity to meet a woman. That's a perfect example of just meeting a woman. And she was a very cool chick. If I was single, I would have definitely asked her out to dinner. I could have been just like, hey, hey, you lost my fish. Now you have to let me take you out to dinner. And she would have probably been like, all right, here's my number. So that's a great example, guys, of women are everywhere. Just do something you enjoy doing, and you might run into a woman. And, just joke around with her and have a good time. And women love that. Women love just a guy who's himself and confident. And one of my other fishing buddies, after she left, he actually came to me and he's like, I thought you were with that girl. I thought you knew that girl. I'm like, dude, I literally just met her a minute ago. And he's like, wow, he's just blown away. He thought I knew her because we had such good chemistry and stuff. Just having a good time together, So that's a good way to meet women, guys. Just doing what you love to do every day. How about you, Rick? What's an idea?
Ideally, you'd want to be in a situation where you don't have to kind of chase and try to find women. You could somehow, and it's not easy for most guys, but somehow arrange it so that they kind of have to come to you. I mean, there's several ways to do that. I mean, look, one easy way is just you could become a photographer, just amateur photographer, and just do it on your part-time, and you'll meet tons of women. Training, sports. I mean, there's just a lot of different ways to become the center and have women need to reach out to you for whatever reason. So that's good. If you can arrange that into your lifestyle, then you're good to go. If not, acquaintances, people, being introduced, I found is probably the most effective way to meet women, is being introduced to women. Like if you have a girl that maybe puts you in the friend zone, right? It happens to guys. She puts you in the friend zone. So you go, all right, bitch, you put me in the friend zone. Well, I'm going to go through your social, see what cute friends you put pictures up with. Then I'm going to ask you to take them out one day so I can meet them. You know, just that bold. So you have a girl that you know and she friend zoned you, and but she says you're great or whatever, whatnot. Then introduce me to some of your friends. Then since you're not interested. Same thing with your buddies. You know, your buddies, they might have a girlfriend or friends, and they have friends. Really being introduced. It's probably so. Those are probably the two best ways to meet women: is have them come to you for one reason or another, and then you always have a steady supply of new people to meet, or get introduced. And you can be very bold and say, "Hey, this girl in that picture from last Christmas, what's her name? You still talk to her? Hey, we should go hang out with her one day." You know, if you're already in the friend zone, fuck it, right? Or if you just have acquaintances or friends or whatever. And then obviously, you know, the Don stuff, like walking up to a girl you've never met and, you know, Casanova type shit, just talk to her and get the number. I mean, I guess you can do that, but that's kind of weird and hit or miss because you never know who's doing what in their life. So that's really not something I tend to do, which is, you know, like cold drop on a girl and try to get her number on the spot. I try to get introduced or have them come to me for one reason or another, which tends to work. That's it.
Yeah, that's hard to do, just going up to someone. I'll tell you why. A lot of women, they're very, very scared if you do that. They're like, because they don't know anything about you. We live in a social media world. We live in a world where you can meet someone online and look them up on Facebook, look them up on Instagram, whatever social media, and learn about them. You can learn, is this guy, you know, a fucking pedophile? Is this guy married? Is this guy has a criminal record for domestic violence? You know, et cetera, et cetera. That's the world we live in, guys. So a woman, you just going up to a random woman and talking to her for like a couple minutes and then just boom, like ask her out, you know, it's going to be hard on her. You know, put yourself in her situation. Like, just imagine if you had a sister and some random guy went up to her and asked her out. You know, wouldn't you be scared, like, to let your sister go on a date? But the interesting thing is, like, violent crimes and rapes and all that stuff is lower today than it was when we were younger. Rick and I actually grew up during the 80s and 90s. That was the serial killer peak, you know, worldwide. And now, you know, it's hard to be a serial killer because they'll catch you after your first murder. Now they have cameras everywhere and DNA and all that shit. You know what I'm saying? So
they ruined it for the aspiring serial killers. Huh? Yeah, there's cameras everywhere for sure.
Yeah. So damn, you can't do that now. But like, we grew up in that time. So women, you know, are, you know, I'm saying the parents today, they're helicopter parents. They raise you to, you know, be very, very scared. Don't talk to strangers, blah, blah, blah. Like, you can't do that shit. Like, if you're playing basketball on the street with a kid, they're going to think you're a fucking predator. It's not like it was 30 years ago, you know, or remember Dennis the Menace? Dennis the Menace would go to his neighbor and hang out with, you know, with the neighbor and at his house and watch TV, whatever. You can't do that shit anymore. Back to the Future, Marty went to hang out with Doc. Nowadays, if they made a movie like that, the guy would be a fucking predator. It'd be like a gay movie about some old guy fucking some teenager. So, I mean, it's time to change. So you don't want to, you know, put women on the spot like that. So I think a really good place to meet girls is like yoga. Yoga is a perfect example because you're outnumbered in yoga. It's 80% women, and they're beautiful women. They're women who keep themselves into shape. They have a really good lifestyle.
And you know what's the best way to meet women in yoga? If you're the instructor, it goes along the lines of what I said. Make them come to you. Yeah, if you're just a good yoga instructor in good shape, you'll see so many women throughout your day, half naked, most of them, that, I mean, you'll get it. Look, the best way to meet women, I think, my opinion is work on yourself, be good and successful yourself in something, and have them come to you for whatever reason. You know, whatever it is. Yoga, perfect example, Steve. Yeah, but you can go there and take the classes. You won't get it as good as if you're the actual instructor, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's true. Like, if you're the instructor, just be like, hey, come, anyone has a question, come see me after class. And she's interested, she's going to come and talk to you guys, so.
You could have a good career that you love, but you like yoga or you like, whatever, or you like photography, and you can get a gig at a yoga studio. Just teach a couple nights a week. It gets you in the door. It gets you in there as part of the staff to hang out. If you're really talking about meeting women, right? Same thing with photography. Everybody wants photos, so it's just do it. It's bottom line. If that's what we're really talking about here, right? Meeting women, try to find a way to make them come to you is the best way, and then you can feel them out and see which one is interested, which one is not. Blah blah blah. It's probably better than trying to meet random women at some places and trying to pick up numbers and all this stuff. If you can't manage any of that, get introduced. That's the best other way.
Yeah, at the end of the day, guys, really, if you're really serious and you're about dating and stuff, every option is an option. At the end of the day, online dating, I don't have a history with that very much. That's something that I may have tried, a few years ago, a couple times. A lot of you younger guys, that's a way of life now. Everyone is online. Everyone's doing the apps and stuff, but don't overdo it on that. Don't have 6 different dating apps and talk to 50 women a day. You're not really serious, but kind of put yourself out there. Every option, guys, on the table, whether it be meeting a girl at the gym, meeting a girl at yoga, online dating, whatever, meeting a girl through work, meeting a girl through friends. If you keep all your options open and you're not ridiculously picky about what you're looking for, you will meet plenty of women. My last advice, guys, is, don't just say, I'm only going to date this race or this ethnicity or this religion or this height or this hair color or this eye color. When you do that, you're eliminating women. If the girl is perfect for you and you have great chemistry physically and emotionally, it does not matter. Any of that shit does not matter. It's silly to even, act like that. You're eliminating people unnecessarily. And we see that all the time of examples. Women are notorious for doing that. They complain they can't get a guy. And then you're like, oh, what are you looking for? He has to be this height. He has to have this color hair. He has to be this skin tone. He has to have this religion. He has to have this or that. He has to drive this car. It's ridiculous. So don't be so damn picky, because that's only going to handcuff your endeavors out there. But guys, I'm all for any option on the table. Don't just be I refuse to do it this way, because you're only just eliminating your chances.
You know what? I don't know, buddy. Maybe you're friends, but I don't know too many guys that are that selective. I think most, at least dudes I talk to, they only have one type, and that is non-ugly. And even then, that could be a compromise. So I don't know, maybe people but as far as I know, man, as long as she's beautiful, no matter what color or shape she is, you're gonna pay attention and try to pick up. But yeah, I think just non-busted is probably the criteria, right? Or do you have a lot of friends that are like, oh man, she's gorgeous, but she's a little too tall for me?
Dude, I've heard every fucking story. I had a guy actually on this podcast we interviewed, was a bodybuilder a couple of years back, and I was talking to him about, he's a younger guy, and I'm like, oh, dude, you live in this place. There's so many Italian women. He's like, oh, I don't like women with curly hair. I'm like, okay, you don't like women with curly hair. So she's a beautiful woman, but she has curly hair. You're not gonna, be interested. It's like, dude, come on, dude.
Maybe a girl with curly hair broke his heart, and it reminds him of her. I don't know, dude. I can't really see any straight guy, single, has a chance with a girl and she just happens to have, I don't know, bro. Maybe, I don't know.
It's all good. All right, guys, look, we appreciate you guys listening to the show. Submit your questions. We will read them on the podcast. Steve Smee, and as for Rick, hit me up on the forum, Steve SMI. We will talk to you guys next week. Have a good one. Have a good one, buddy.
Have a good one, Steve. Have a good one, guys.
Guys, this is the required legal disclaimer. We are only sharing our experience from years of steroid use. We are not doctors, and none of what we say should be regarded as medical advice. Always check with your doctor before taking any drugs or starting any training program. Evolutionary Network podcast coming your way. This is number 326, Albuterol. Steve Smee here and Rick in the house.
Hey, what's up, Steve? What's up, guys? How's everybody doing out there?
All right, guys. Again, we're doing 326, and last episode was 324. We did clenbuterol. This time we're going to do its cousin, its weaker cousin, albuterol. And Rick and I were talking about this pre-show. It's very interesting. It's very similar to clenbuterol, but there are some really, really cool things about albuterol that separates it from clenbuterol. So we're going to talk about that. So what is albuterol? Albuterol sulfate. It's a short-acting B2 adrenergic receptor agonist, and it's been used in medical as a relief of bronchospasm in people with asthma, COPD, which is chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. A lot of old people, you might have a grandma, grandpa who has that. People who've been smoking for years. People who work around, dirty conditions like coal or, factories and stuff like that. They'll develop this. It's on the WHO, World Health Organization's list of essential medicines. That's really cool. This means that it's considered to be one of the most important medicines that are needed in the basic health system. So if you go, to a third world country, and really poor country, and you end up going to a clinic, there's a good chance that they will have albuterol on the shelf over there because it's on that list, something that needs to be there. That'll help people breathe. So we use it in bodybuilding for another use. We use it as an off-label use to help us burn fat and to increase performance. So, that's kind of the background on it. We're going to talk about how it may be an option for you. If you insist on using maybe clenbuterol might be better. We'll kind of debate that on this podcast. But first, I'm going to bring in Rick. Rick's going to go over the brief history of albuterol and tell us a little bit about what he knows about a history. He's really, really good with that. So enlighten us, Rick, on what you know.
Albuterol was discovered around the 1960s. It was discovered in 1966, and it was launched as a drug. It's called Bentolin in 1969. 1972 Munich Olympics were the first time where anti-doping measures were really put in action. And so drugs like albuterol, clenbuterol, and such were not allowed in the games at that point. There was a short span of time in the late 80s and early 90s where some athletes were allowed to use albuterol, but then it was quickly abused. A lot of people were just using it. A lot of them had scripts and such from doctors in their countries, but maybe they didn't quite need it. So again, it was banned from Olympic use. Albuterol has been available as a medication in the U.S. for human consumption, something that clenbuterol was not approved. And one of the reasons might be because albuterol is in and out of your system a lot quicker than clenbuterol, while clenbuterol will linger in your system for a lot longer. And obviously, when it comes to the FDA approving a drug, much better chance, if there are two drugs competing for the same use, much better chance of the drug that's in and out of your system and shows less side effects to be approved than the other one to not. So that's kind of just a history on albuterol there, kind of short history.
So some of the other medical uses besides what I talked about, allergies, exercise-induced breathing difficulty. So if you remember back in elementary school during PE, some kids would run around and they would be, huffing and puffing. Well, the FDA actually approved it originally, Rick, in 1982 in the United States. So obviously it got updated with the approval. But if you can remember back in those days, it was possible that some of those kids, you grew up with who had those little inhalers, they were taking albuterol, and that would be much better, actually, much safer than taking a corticosteroid that you would inhale.
My son, my oldest one, he had a lot of albuterol put through his nebulizer. He had a lot of respiratory issues between ages about 2, 3 until about 6. He had a lot of respiratory issues, and we had a nebulizer at home and prescription for albuterol, and just every other month or so he'd get really bad. So I always had a steady supply of albuterol at the house. It just, like I said, with Clan, just never that appealing. Never really liked it much. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I used it, tried it out, but it's just never a thing for me, I guess.
Yeah, so you can imagine in weight training and cardio and stuff how it could have some benefits if you can breathe easier, how it can kind of help you with that. So, I mean, delaying premature labor, cystic fibrosis, potassium in blood, those are other medical uses. But let's talk about, how it works. So, like I said, the good news is it's not a corticosteroid. I'm completely against ever putting a corticosteroid in your body unless it's absolutely necessary. Too many people abuse that. So, as athletes, as weightlifters, you should never, ever use a corticosteroid unless it's really necessary. So albuterol is a much better option. And the reason that it works so well is it stimulates the beta receptors, which causes the vasodilation, the increased blood flow, the pumps. It reduces stored fat by stimulating the breakdown of fatty acids in the bloodstream for use as fuel. So that's how the fat loss benefits come with albuterol. So, but the problem with albuterol, though, when we use it for bodybuilding purposes, for bodybuilding at bodybuilding dosages, Rick, is that boost in blood flow ends up straining the heart. So you can expect, is it going to help you breathe better when you're doing cardio? Yes. But on the flip side, it's going to hurt your cardio because it's going to cause your heart rate to speed up faster. It'd be like revving up your engine in your car and just revving up the RPMs. You burn out the engine when you do that. Or it'd be like drinking coffee before a workout. You're revving up the engine. That's not something you want to do before a workout. You don't want to go work out with your heart rate already sped up. You want to be able to rev your engine up with acceleration, not rev your engine up already before you even walk into the gym. So that kind of offsets any of the bodybuilding benefits. But at the end of the day, why do guys use it? It increases body temperature, it increases basal metabolic rate, and it decreases your appetite. So again, consider it a stimulant. It's going to help you reduce your appetite, help you burn a little bit of fat, and that's why bodybuilders will use it.
And most of you guys listening to this out there, you don't really need albuterol or clenbuterol. You just need to have better habits when it comes to your eating, more consistency, and you'll be fine. You'll make it there. And I'm not talking to you if you have a show coming up or you have to look a certain way by a certain date. No, if you're just regular dad bod trying to shed some of that weight, stay the fuck away from it. It will do things to your body that could have long-term effects. And the fat loss is short-lived. The fat loss on it is short-lived. As a matter of fact, I think that if you use clenbuterol, albuterol as a crutch to lose fat, you have a higher chance of gaining all of that weight back and more, because you're just using these stimulants to sort of mask some really core lifestyle habits. When it comes to steroids, there's a certain amount of musculature that you're not going to be able to put on or hold on to unless you're adding androgens to your body. You could work out as much as you want for as long as you want. Take all the natural stuff. You will have a genetic point that you can't get past. Then steroids bring you way further along the way, obviously. When it comes to clenbuterol, you can lose that body fat natural without taking anything. No stimulants, no steroids. You can do that. So I'm not So I'm not as much for guys using stimulants and things that affect their central nervous system, their heart, for just some short-term fat loss that can be achieved without anything. When it comes to steroids, I mean, I get it, I understand it. You're just not going to put on that extra muscle. You've been training 5-8 years natural, supplements, everything. You're just not going to gain that extra muscle unless you juice. So I don't. So as we go on with the podcast today, it's just unjustifiable to be doing albuterol. And again, if you have a show coming up and you got a coach, you guys have different ideas. I mean, that's fine. But just regular folks out there listening, guy trying to lose some body fat, trying to get back to your college shape. Just good diet, good healthy living will get you there eventually. You don't really need to slam on albuterol or clenbuterol. And Steve and I both have tried it, and we don't recommend it, do we?
So I ran albuterol before. Running it at a low dose, it did have much less side effects than Clen. But once I ramped up the dose, I was starting to get the same side effects that I got from the Clen. The heartburn, the gut issues, the heat, feeling hot all the time. That's really annoying, especially when you live in a hot climate. And how are you supposed to do cardio? And how are you supposed to weight train when you feel hot? And I see people do that. They stim themselves up. They go work out at the gym. And they're sweating. And I'm sure they feel good afterwards. I mean, they sweat a lot. But are you really having an efficient workout when it comes to weight training by sweating your balls off during your workout? By overheating your body? No. It's actually not. It's not strengthening your heart. It's actually weakening your heart in this particular situation. It's not like doing like hot yoga where you go do hot yoga in a hot room and you sweat like crazy and your heart rate goes up. You actually strengthen your heart doing it that way. So it's not going to be a good idea, guys. But some guys really do like albuterol. You don't see it used too much. Not a lot of sources actually carry albuterol anymore. They carry clenbuterol. So, but let's say you do want to use it. One of the things to keep in mind if you are a tested athlete that you can use it. It is, even though it's on the WADA prohibited list, you would have to get a therapeutic use exemption to be able to use it. So you'd have to use it at a very low dose for therapeutic reasons. They will allow that. Another thing, the detection time is very short compared to clenbuterol. The half-life is only 6 hours. So if you use albuterol, some guys like to split it. So, the dosages, basically the way that as athletes we will use it for bodybuilding, 4 milligrams 3 times a day, so 12 milligrams total. That's a moderate dosage for fat loss. And then women would take, about a third of that. So, and you want to make sure you're drinking a lot of water while you're on it. You want to make sure you're also taking taurine, just like clenbuterol. You need your electrolytes. Otherwise, it's going to give you some really, really bad cramps, especially if you're working out when you use it. Or you might be sitting at your desk and then get up and like, oh my gosh, my back just got tight. Well, you really need to use taurine when you're on it as well. So that's going to really help. I think I ran it for 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. And then, that's really what people like to run it. It's just same as clenbuterol. But Rick, what do you think about how to run it when it comes to a cycle?
When it comes to clenbuterol or albuterol, the way that I've always understood it and when I've tried it and when I helped other people with it is you really only use it for about a couple of weeks. Back in the day, about well over 15 years ago, what we used to do is you'd run Clen or albuterol a couple of weeks, you get off of it, then you get on either an ephedra or your Himbi and caffeine, ephedra stack, and you run that for a couple of weeks, then jump back on your Clen or albuterol for a couple of weeks. It really does seem that the good fat-burning effects of these drugs are really concentrated to the first couple of weeks. And once you kind of maxed out and they start to just kind of give you diminishing returns, you hop off of those, get on a different fat loss drug that'll help curb appetite, give you energy even on a caloric deficit. And it'll work on a different pathway than clenbuterol directly. And then once you've been on that one for a couple of weeks, jump off of it and clen. And you just kind of rinse and repeat. Or if you don't have a ton of weight to lose and it fits your lifestyle, you can just do 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off of everything. 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. I found, and I think on the last podcast, your opinion was that someone would need to do clenbuterol for several weeks to get good results. I've heard this before. From what I've seen personally, and maybe the way that I like to cycle, those first 2 weeks are really bam, bam. You know, you can see a difference in the mirror almost on a daily basis, providing your diet and your training is on point. But after the first 2 weeks, it just it seems like it doesn't work as well. And I'm not the only one that says there's other guys have too. So I've seen the kind of two schools of thought on it. I personally like 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, or 2 weeks on and then switch on to something. When I did used to do stimulants, you know, when I was a young man and maybe understood health less and understood the side effects less. And when you're a young man, you think you're always going to have this health is never going to escape you. But now I'm about to turn 40 here. Now I think about it. I'm like, fuck, damn, I ran a lot of stimulants through my body in my 20s and, you know, even in late teens a little bit too. You know, man, it's probably not, I shouldn't have done that. I was just a boy, you know? So yeah, I mean, something to think about, everybody out there. Just, and again, clenbuterol, albuterol really long-term kept me away from it. It can enlarge your heart. It can make your heart larger. Steroids can already kind of do that, but oh man, it's just clenbuterol, albuterol, they're just scarier to me in that regard.
Well, you bring up a good point, Rick. The heart can only beat so many times. So if you're stimming yourself up with tons of coffee, tons of stimulants, tons of clenbuterol, tons of albuterol, all this for years and years, your heart rate's going to stay elevated 24/7, or at least for most of the day while it's peaking in your system. So your heart's going to beat faster. Now, when we work out, our heart does beat faster when we work out. You know,
I think you know, healthy living, nutrition, good mental health, because anxiety will fucking wreck your heart. The good, you know, all these good things keep your heart muscles very elastic, keeps them pumping, keeps them clear. When you start to, you know, get into heavy stimulants, into some stimulant narcotics, into being, you know, a fucking maniac and just being enraged and mad, letting the steroids build you up into anger, or just getting too anxious and having those weird outside of the chest cavity anxiety, that all that just kind of takes away elasticity from your heart muscles, from your valves, from everything. And that's when you really limit the amount of the heartbeats you have in you, is when your heart starts to lose that elasticity. But as long as you keep that heart nice and pumping, very, very elastic, you just healthy living, good mental state, stay the fuck away from most of these stimulants. I indulge in coffee. It's a trade-off I have to make, but for the most part, just that elasticity, losing the elasticity in your heart is long-term is something that's going to bring you a lot of heartache.
So you want to build a strong heart, guys. You want to have your resting heart rate low. I mean, as athletes, it should be under 65, under 70. I mean, if it's over 80, you don't have a good heart. So check into that. Yes, when we exercise, your heart rate goes up, but that's a brief thing. You strengthen your heart, and after you exercise, it comes back down to earth. So, let's go over the side effects with albuterol before we finish this up. Tremors, anxiety, muscle cramps, headache, heart palpitation, flushing, sleep problems, behavioral problems, allergic reactions, and crippling pumps or spasms. Those are the main side effects of albuterol. So those are what you want to look for when in terms of the bodybuilding side effects when we use it for bodybuilding purposes at the dosages we use it for. So those are common side effects. I mean, those are things that you will probably end up getting half of that stuff. So again, guys, albuterol, it's kind of the baby cousin of clenbuterol. It's got less side effects, but in my experience, the more I ramped up the dosage, the more it seemed like I was running clenbuterol, even though it's not as powerful as albuterol for sure. So I really recommend, if you do use it, use N2Guard on it. N2Guard has taurine. N2Guard has a lot of vitamins and minerals that will help you. Finish up the show, Rick. What do you want to add?
Albuterol is more like clenbuterol's less ugly little sister. It's a little bit less ugly, but still don't want to wake up next to it. It's not all that great. And again, specifically, you need to be a certain body fat percentage by a certain date. I can understand some of those guys, but just to shed a little bit of body fat, come on, man. What are you doing? Something that can have long lasting effects on your heart just for some short-term fat loss. Not worth it. Not worth it. Lifestyle, guys. Lifestyle. Make sure diet is on point. Make sure that you never let yourself get too far out of shape, because that's what happens. That's when guys go crazy on taking stimulants and clenbuterol and albuterol, is when you've let yourself get too far out of shape and you need to do something now. You need to get cut up now. Well, how about you don't let yourself get too far out of shape? How about you spend a little bit of time in front of the mirror every day, and once you see things starting to get out of hand, you curve and you change course and you get back on the right track. And then you're not desperate looking for stimulants and things that can hurt you to lose body fat very quickly. It took you weeks and months to put that body fat on. Give yourself the time to take it off. So that's just kind of the last message on it, guys. We provide the information, but we also need to give you guys our opinion on it. And it's just not worth it, dude. The juice is not worth the squeeze on albuterol, clenbuterol. Athletes, just I want to address athletes because it was big with Olympic athletes. And I've said this before on the podcast, because athletes will test positive for steroids and for this or that. Look, when you're Olympic level athlete, to where you've honed your skill and your technique to where your muscles are just doing the most efficient way that sport, that exercise needs it to be, and you're just there. If you got a little bit, just not even a lot, just a little bit of albuterol, a good stimulant like that, just a tiny bit of extra testosterone, DECA, anything, it could just give you that edge. Shave those extra hundredths of a second. That could be the difference between that gold medal or being in just somebody in the fourth place in the picture. Once you're at that level, just a little dab will do you. So of course, Olympic athletes, all the time in trouble for clenbuterol, albuterol. Yeah, because these guys, just a tiny bit could bring them from fourth to first place. That's how close some of these sports are when you get up to Olympic, high Olympic level, Olympic competition. So, this is why it sees used. But you and I, we can just diet down fast and lose the body fat the right way and not fuck our hearts up in the process. If anything, maybe gain some heart health with good cardio. See, you shouldn't be doing fucking cardio on stimulants like clen and albuterol. I have. And I know a lot of people that have it. Just don't do it. It's not a good practice. Do your cardio. A little bit of caffeine, a little Warna maybe if you need a little pick me up, even a little taurine, something like that. Not a fucking buterol, right? So that's just my closing the show on it. We already did clen, albuterol, and we needed this close up on these two stimulants. Anything else, Steve?
Yeah, you bring up a good point. I don't know why people insist on torturing themselves when they do cardio. They want to be like, oh, I'm gonna burn fat when I do cardio. You don't burn fat when you do cardio, guys. You can gain fat during cardio. Well, when your body goes into fat burning mode or fat storing mode, it doesn't have anything to do with how much exercise. You can go 4 hours and exercise all day, but if you're eating shit before and after your workout, you're still going to gain fat. We see this all the time in the gym. How many fat people do you see every day in the gym? Every day they're on the cardio machine, and they don't lose fat.
When you get on that cardio machine, me personally, and just you're out there listening to this, I'm good getting on the cardio machine, even though I hate cardio machines, but I'll do them depending winter or whatever. Get on the cardio machine in the morning, fasted state, where I'm like, I could feel that energy lacking a little bit. And I've got to kind of pull it out of me to get that energy up. Like I can put up with that. And I feel like that's burning fat. I never really enjoyed it. And it wasn't until I really completely cut it out that I realized how much I disliked doing cardio when my heart's fucking racing from stimulants already.
Yeah, big mistake.
When I used to take the ECA stack, it was ephedrine, caffeine, your Hindi, and sometimes throw aspirin or your Hindi, you ECA, ECY, and then go run and do. Oh man,
yeah.
So I hated that feeling. I used to just do it because the results looked it. It's completely unhealthy, but I could just see the fat coming off. Look, now you can get really good fast results. It hurts a little bit, but it hurts different. Fasting, AM cardio, it hurts, but it hurts different. It hurts different than taking these fucking stimulants and then trying to get some cardio out, and you don't know if you're having a fucking panic attack or if you're really getting a good cardio session, and it's just terrible.
For Steve Smee and Rick, this has been another episode of Evolutionary Radio. We appreciate you guys listening. We'll have another episode up very soon. Have a good one.
Have a good one, Steve. Have a good one, guys.
Guys, this is the required legal disclaimer. We are only sharing our experience from years of steroid use. We are not doctors, and none of what we say should be regarded as medical advice. Always check with your doctor before taking any drugs or starting any training program.